The Bronny James watch is on. Is it possible we could see him land in Morgantown? Paul and I are going to talk about that live here on the show tonight. Welcome to another edition of Hoops from the Hills. Paul, what's up, man?
What is up? What is up? A little bit of breaking news. This happened about an hour ago. Carmelo is no longer going to be he was released from the national letter of intent. So I'm going to knock it off with that really quick. What was still fresh in my mind.
Yeah,
we got on right before we were supposed to go live, so I didn't have a chance to talk about it. But I think that was to be expected.
Yeah, for those of you who may not know, Carmelo, he's talking about Carmelo Atkins, who was as of now was the only commit or signee, I guess you could say, actually in the 2024 class for the Mountaineer basketball team. So right as of now, they have no incoming freshmen on this team, so they're going to have to do their work in the portal. So I would expect that DeVries will go out and look for some young guys to mix with some older guys, maybe even some guys who haven't played, or some guys like we mentioned in our show earlier today who maybe had signed NLIs at other schools and will now flip to West Virginia because of their coaching changes, things like that. There's a lot of that stuff going on around the country. I mean, Eric Musselman is leaving Arkansas to go to USC, for example. So, which actually is a great segue into tonight's topic, and that is Bronny James. Will Bronny James, LeBron James' son, obviously, will he want to go to USC and play for Eric Musselman? You know, that's yet to be determined. There is some, and it's all strictly, you know, I have no idea if West Virginia even has a chance to land Bronny James. I'd say it's probably like 1 in 100 if I had to put a number on it. But there is a chance, and he does have a connection to West Virginia, which is what we're on here to talk about. Paul, what are your initial thoughts just before we get too deep into it on Bronny James and his portal entry and all that?
Well, you signed Bronny James because there's upside there. You know, he's shown that at Sierra Canyon. He's shown it at other places he's been. Even at USC, he had the heart issue similar to Cook. And when you look at it, you think, well, visibility for the program. If you're being honest with yourself, if you're a coach and you're not saying the loud part out loud, you probably think to yourself, you know, even if he doesn't pan all the way out, what else can it do for the program? We're going to have LeBron James in the house watching games, especially if he's not good enough to go pro and sticks around 2 or 3 years. Could you imagine the visibility? You could go on a Clemson type meteoric rise as a program that would affect all sports, similar to how Caitlin Clark has affected Iowa. I would imagine it would be in that same vein. Now, I don't know if it would be as big as what Clark is doing right now. He would have to be good. If he was good and they won, number one, you'd never hold on to him, you know, here probably. Number two, it would be fun. You know, it'd be fun to see. And if I'm a donor, and if you don't have the foresight to see that, and if it's a money issue for him, if he's just trying to get paid, I think you overpay for it. I really do. That's just personally me. But I would pay into the $1.5 million, maybe even $2 million range for a guy like this, only because of what else it will do for the program, because it would pay for itself 100 times over. If you have LeBron James watching games in your stadium, every kid from 13 to 18 years old in the country is going to want to play for your school. Every transfer portal in the country is going to want to come play in front of LeBron. All the NBA scouts are going to be there. It should be just a big hangout, right? So because of that, I think, you know, this is just one of those odd scenarios where, you know, Evan Miyakawa put out, he'd probably be maybe 82nd player in the portal right now, which isn't terrible. Certainly good enough to come to West Virginia, as based off the profile and everything, but certainly not what, you know, there's going to be a fight for him for sure, you know, and people are smart enough to see what kind of visibility he would help bring a program.
Right. And you and I talked about that off air. I think it was last night, maybe, when we were talking about doing this show, and I likened it to what's going on at Colorado right now with Coach Prime. I mean, they went 4-8 last year, but broke all kinds of records in attendance, ticket sales, all that stuff. Had the highest viewed games of the season because people wanted to tune in and watch and see Coach Prime and see Coach Prime's kids play and all that. And I think it would be, you could have a similar thing happen potentially at West Virginia. Again, I don't put this as a very high likelihood. My gut tells me he'll probably end up going back to USC. It's now that their coaching situation straightened out. But I don't know that. I don't know if he may not want to feel like a fit there anymore. But now there is a connection that I mentioned in the opening to West Virginia, and that is Rodney Gallagher, the football player. Rodney Gallagher and Bronny James played on the same AAU basketball team together for a while, and so and they still talk, is my understanding. I've seen photos float around on social media of those two guys together. So who's to say Rodney don't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Bronny, this is a great place. I love it here. You should come with me. You'll love it here too. We can hang out, yada yada, whatever." And yes, I know Rodney don't play basketball, but that's not the point. He can still speak highly of the school, of the program, of the state. And, he would have somebody on campus that would be, a friend and somebody he's comfortable with. That's the connection.
Yeah. Listen, if I'm Coach DeVries, and I've got the time, and I think there's a small chance, I go to Rodney and I say, "Hey, what's the deal?" Just go straight to the source and find out, is there even a chance? If there is, I make Rodney Gallagher rich and tell him to get on this basketball team right now. And you can play with your childhood friend. You can play 10 minutes a night, 5 minutes a night. I think Rodney, honestly, I really believe this. I think he was good enough to play college basketball if he really wanted to pursue it. I just think he fell in love with football.
Mm-hmm.
And his size is obviously a factor there, but I do think you could finagle it, maybe give him 6 or 7 minutes a night, maybe something like that. He's definitely a good ball handler, and I think he can get into the lane and dish.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would have to see, especially since he's probably put on some good weight and muscle since he's been in that football program.
Mm-hmm.
For goodness sake, he's better than Aiden Tagalo Nelson, right? And he got to be on that team last year. So, at least I think he is. Maybe Nelson's better than I think, But obviously, I also admit that this is a long shot, but I'm a dreamer, I'm definitely a dreamer.
There was a good article in The Athletic. I'm not going to share it because it's behind the paywall, and I'm not sure if they probably frown on that, but I will read part of it. It says they asked LeBron James about it, I guess, after a game, and he said Bronny has tough decisions to make. And he said, says Los Angeles Lakers superstar LeBron James said his son Bronny has some tough decisions to make regarding his 19-year-old son's future at USC. At the end of the day, Bronny's his own man, LeBron said. When asked about Bronny in the transfer portal, he has some tough decisions to make, and when he's ready to make those decisions, he'll let us all know. But as his family, we're going to support whatever he does. Questions about Bronny's future have picked up this week after his coach at USC, Andy Enfield, left for the head coaching vacancy at SMU on Monday. Bronny has not announced his intentions for next season. He averaged 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 2.1 assists in 25 games, including 6 starts. The Trojans went 15-18 and 8-12 in the Pac-12. Under Enfield, USC made 5 NCAA tournaments. None of that's relevant. Bronny, a 6'4", 210-pound guard, returned to the court after suffering a cardiac arrest last summer when he collapsed during a team workout in July, likely due to a congenital heart defect, according to a James family spokesperson. LeBron has repeatedly expressed his desire to play in the NBA with his son before his Hall of Fame career ends. He didn't comment further on Bronny's future Tuesday. So, and that's pretty much it on the Bronny thing there in that Athletic article, which, by the way, was written by Alex Andrzejewicz, just to give him a shout out.
Right.
So, as you see there, his numbers aren't great. But again, the kid had a heart attack at 18 years old. And that's not something you just, bounce back from and you're all of a sudden A-okay. Even the mental aspect of something like that had to be a challenge, right?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah. It would change. There's some people that would change her life, be afraid to work out ever again, possibly. You have to get a lot of reassurance from doctors for that situation. make sure that, I mean, you know the risks, I guess. Um, yeah, so I mean, obviously that played a huge part in his freshman year, because all reports were he was kicking some ass going into this. You know, he was playing a lot better before than after, which is not any surprise, obviously. Similar to a Cook, right? A guy like a Cook who was the defensive player of the year in the Big East. I mean, that doesn't happen easily, or if at all. So, uh, can you guys see and hear me? Seems like Couz has gone out on me here, and I don't know if it's me or him. I think it was probably him. Let's get some. Yeah, that's Hank Gather's thing, man. That was pretty crazy. Uh, let's get to this Dutch Miller thing while we wait on Couz to pop in, guys. Recognize the sponsor for this episode of Hoops from the Hills. This episode of Hoops from the Hills is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time.
With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for.
Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com, or you can come in person today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. It's near you, Couz.
It is. It was internet.
Is that what's going on?
It shows my signal is full, but yet I lost all connection to StreamYard for a couple minutes. I don't know what happened.
Well, I mean, we've got some cloudy weather out where I'm at. I'm assuming it's probably bad where you're at too, a little bit.
Yeah, it's been raining off and on, but nothing
so that
serious.
Can play a part, you know.
Yeah, no biggie. So thanks for holding the fort down.
Oh, no problem. It gave me actually got me to remember to do the dang ad read. So
good deal. Glad I could help.
Yeah.
It says he made a funny face and then left. Yeah, I was making a face because Paul was talking and it was just like a jumbled mess to me. I couldn't, and I was thinking in my head, I wonder if that's what he sounds like to everybody else. And then boom, I'm just gone. And then it wouldn't reload. I had to close StreamYard completely out and then go right back in again. I don't know. It was weird. But
maybe it just crashed on you.
That's live TV, man. That's how it works, right?
I think Tosh made a good point here. I wanted to go back to this. He said, I'd get so sick of hearing about him and his dad constantly, and I think they take all the attention away from the other players that work hard and are equally deserving of it. Another Colorado show.
I agree with that to a degree, and it would probably aggravate me too at some point, but I think the positives would outweigh the negatives to a point where it would boost our program from a PR standpoint and maybe even a money standpoint. But I think it'd be worth it just for a couple of years.
Well, another thing is Bronny, from everything I've seen, and I followed him on social media for years, I've always found it fascinating having to bear just the story of his life, having to bear the cross that he bears on the basketball court is pretty wild, to be a talented player that most people would love to have, top 150 player in your class, and then people to be disappointed in you for that because of who you are and who your dad is. Mm-hmm. It's just got to be one heck of a thing, similar to Michael Jordan's boy, who was much, much worse than him.
Yeah.
At least Bronny is comparable and was getting some possible NBA draft buzz. I think it was stretched a bit. He really didn't. As a sophomore, he really started coming into his own a little bit there at Sierra Canyon. But and then his last couple of years, he really grew in his body and really grew into a good player in high school. But he's had the best coaching. He's had the best advice. He's had the best, everything his dad had to go through to get the body that he has and has had for basically 15 plus years. He got that advice. So,
Yeah.
and if there's anybody that can come back from what happened and be Bronny because of just what he has, his disposal basically from his dad and everything, I'm sure. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. But on what Tosh said, that's what I was going to get to really quick. I don't think that would be as much of the case. Now, maybe the media would make it that way, but honestly, if he were, I don't think he would be the best player on the team. Maybe not even the second best player on the team. If this were in my head how it would play out, we'd probably get a lot of good players that want to play with him because of the exposure, and they would get their chance to shine. And at the end of the day, the best players get to shine. Of course, Bronny would get some, but I don't think it would be as obnoxious as what Dion's do. I just don't.
Yeah. Well, and again, you make a great point. The exposure that the other kids would get too is something I hadn't even thought about. That might make them want to play with him, and I don't know that bothers them as much as it does us old heads, who want things to be normal, right?
Yeah.
The overexposure stuff. I mean, I'm guilty of, I hated the Kansas City Chiefs because of Taylor Swift. I mean, it was more to it than that. It was also because they beat my Bills every freaking year. But the Taylor Swift thing didn't help. And
right, and out of her control, much like Bronny's is out of his.
Not even her fault, but yet everybody hated her for it. And
I mean, she does enjoy the attention, but it's not like it's.
Hate's a strong word, but you know what I'm saying. Everybody was kind of on her case about it.
It's a weird thing not to dislike somebody for, to me. I just. But I get it.
Yep.
People talk about they just got their power back on.
Yeah, Daniel Gigax says Timothy Green. Oh, yeah, never mind. That's what he was saying as well. And I am doing better. Thanks for asking. Glenn Marsh asked how I am feeling better. I still a little bit of a cough, a little bit of congestion, but feeling much better. See, I want to thank everybody who might be watching on X as well. Be sure that if you want to check out all of our content, all of our previous lives, all of our pre-recorded stuff, come check us out on YouTube. Come subscribe to the channel, Hoops from the Hills. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button on this live stream, guys. It helps get it out to more people. If you're watching on the replay too, it still helps. Be sure to drop a comment. Be sure to share it with people. Let them know about us. We're still a fairly young channel. A lot of people still don't know about us. So make sure to spread the word, spread the good word about Who's from the Hills. And somebody else mentioned in the comment a minute ago too about I think it was Curtis D mentioned about Carmelo Atkins. Paul actually covered that in the beginning of the show, that Carmelo Atkins, who was the only incoming freshman so far that had signed for West Virginia, has gotten out of his national letter of intent and will not be coming to Morgantown. I actually read something on that. I think it was last night. It's my understanding, based on what I read, that it was kind of a mutual thing, that the coaching staff, I don't think, really felt he was a fit for what they wanted to do. And so they decided to go their separate ways. But I don't remember where I saw that at. I don't know if it was on a message board or on Twitter or in an article. I've read so much stuff the last 2 days, man. It's all starting to mesh together.
So what I was told is they need these scholarships, man. And unfortunately, if it was a 4-year system, I think they would have welcomed Carmelo in this class, and you wouldn't saw a change. If it was a high school recruiting class, this is going to be a heavy portal class, and going forward, it's going to be a true mixed blend. I think you'll see him going forward add 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys a year from the high school ranks, probably 2 or 3. But in this case, I really do believe it may be an all portal class. I really do believe. I mean, it's probably going to have to be. Now if they get a shot, that's why you see him recruiting Omaha and Jamie Kaiser Jr. and guys like that have much eligibility left. It would be basically high school players 1 year removed.
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately for Carmelo, he's not developed. He would be taking up a roster spot that you basically would need to redshirt him unless he just broke out, and maybe he will and we'll regret it. In cases like this, I usually do follow the kid, just so I can be mad about it later, especially if he breaks out and is a really good player. But I think this was the best call, and from what I was told, that it was basically a Coach DeVries kind of decision. The way this is where it's going to be. Um, Unfortunate, but I mean, we were his only Power 5 offer at one point.
Right.
So I think people were saying he has gotten some more visibility and offers since then. So hopefully he does, because this is really late in the process, and unfortunately, he's a casualty of the Bob Huggins situation as well.
Yeah. And, he'll land. The kid's a good player. He'll land on his feet. I'm sure he'll do fine. He'll go somewhere, probably one of the other schools that offered him, a mid-major school somewhere. Hopefully he'll do well, and who knows, maybe he could end up back in Morgantown again at some point in the future. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they need the roster spots. I mean, especially, if they're able to hold on to a couple of the guys that are already on board, like a Noah Farrakhan or an Ofri Neve or a Patrick Sumnick, some of those guys, if they're able to keep those guys on board, or at least a couple of them, then that's even two less spots you have. And they may want to fill the rest of it with portal guys that they feel like might be more developed or maybe even a better fit. I don't know. The one I'm really keeping an eye on for next year is Jasper Johnson. I'm really curious to see. So far, I've not seen any remarks by him or anybody in the media that has talked to him about whether or not, on what his feelings are about West Virginia now that DeVries is on board. But I would love to, hopefully something about that will come out soon. I'm sure some people have been reaching out to him.
I mean, you look, and people fall in love with players all the time that are off the board. Normally, you see a player like this with an offer list like this, Couz, they get recruited by mid-majors. Like, this is somebody you would see Drake take a chance on, or something like that. But, like, when you look at, here was his other offers: Holy Cross and UT Arlington.
Who's this? Carmelo?
Carmelo Atkins, yeah. And West Virginia swoops in with an offer. This kid's getting recruited by Holy Cross and UT Arlington. Not even like Marshall. not even St. Louis or Belmont or Oakland. We're talking about Holy Cross and UT Arlington, which, are D1. I think Holy Cross is D1. UT Arlington is. So just kind of odd,
Yeah.
But not sure who, or somebody fell in love with him, and they've done really well with kids like that in the past. This is what I'm talking about with the Huggins era. We recruited players like this all the time, and a few of them really worked out. It's like almost like they loved those under-recruited kids, so they got a lot of them. Our fan base was pretty disappointed with a lot of them when they were recruited.
A lot of them ended up leaving a year or two in too because they didn't pan out.
That's true.
To be honest.
What's the big that we had a few years back that was real long and lanky? He ended up tearing his Achilles, and then he had to transfer out. What was his name?
Sini Njai?
I think it was a more normal name than that, but there's
been several. There was another big in that same class, if I'm not mistaken, that also didn't hang around. Didn't pan out, and I think I can't think of his name off the top of my head. There has been so many of those guys in the last 5 or 6 years that
you're right.
Even 10 years. If you go back 10 years, there's been even more.
And the ones we needed to keep, we didn't.
Well, they didn't pan out. I mean, a lot of them got in trouble for disciplinary issues, or
right.
It just seemed like there was always something with the roster that Huggins, it wasn't working. Like every year there was some kind of issue with at least one or two guys. But I mean, I guess that's normal in today's landscape where guys, this younger generation of players they want to go somewhere and play for a coach that does what they want to do, and they don't want to wait their turn in some cases, different things.
So I want to know, so Shaggy had this is me and you were agreed on this, that Ofri is the future star and has a ton of potential. Litzel, next thing he put was no, he doesn't. Now I don't know if he's talking to Shaggy or not.
He is.
But I'm
'cause
curious.
Earlier in the comments, he said Ofri should leave because he stinks.
Man, I 1,000% disagree with you, brother.
So do I.
I do. Go put on his, and just try to be objective for a second. I know you probably say you watched a lot of his stuff or whatever, which is cool. But go put on his midseason highlights, and I think, man, look, they're extremely impressive when you look at this kid didn't play regular high school ball. He he was able to come in from day one. The very last game he played in, he scored in double digits, Leitzel. You know, I mean, it really, to me, the only reason he didn't play down the stretch is because his body, you know, he just didn't have the musculature to do it. And he's put on almost 30 pounds. He saw what he's deficient at, and he fixed it. But if you want to talk about a kid that's got really good lateral movement and is able to jump out of the gym for a kid his height and size, pretty impressive. And, oh, by the way, he's got a jump shot, man. He can put it on the deck. He's got really good handles. And I would say 7.5, 8 out of 10 finishing at the rim. Like, he's really talented all the way around, man.
The video that Paul and I watched it's a YouTube channel called U, the letter U, Vision, Vision, U Vision. And they have a highlight tape. It's WVU freshman Ofri Nove midseason highlights. Go watch that on YouTube. And look, you may still feel the same after you watch those highlights.
Just put them on.
But just give it a shot. And look, I respect your opinion. And Paul and I could end up being wrong about him. But he and I both think Ofri Nove has the potential to be a superstar. Now, will he meet that potential? I don't know. But I know he's putting the work in because he's gained 29 pounds since he got to Morgantown. So, you know, he's doing what he's doing his part of it anyway, as far as the work piece of it.
I want to put that daggone highlight tape on him so bad sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we might be able to since it's a YouTube thing. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm always skittish about that kind of stuff because sometimes you get dinged.
I know.
If the person who created it finds out and they can take it down. Make you take it down.
Right.
Some people don't, but anyway. Curtis D says he don't see Bembry having a place here. Time will tell. You know, Jeremiah Bembry's obviously a talented young man. I mean, he was recruited by both Florida State and West Virginia, 2 Power 5 schools. So there's something there. He just hasn't had a chance for whatever reason. It hasn't come to light yet. What?
I just got followed by a profile with 200,000 followers.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I had something like that happen to me a couple of days ago. It wasn't that many. It was like 30,000 or something. I don't remember who it was.
I hate looking at life like that, but that took me off guard. You know, I don't really care about followers that much. But that one kind of shook me a little bit because I'm like, this is a college football one, and I'm thinking, dang, maybe they want me on their show, you know.
Well, that's the way I am. The one that followed me the other day was a podcast. It was a podcaster. They're not a college football podcaster, but they are a sports podcaster. So it kind of caught my attention. They've seen something that makes us want to follow you, right?
Right. See, personally, I mean, you're talking about a kid that's a sophomore. So if he's scoring 8 a game when he's a sophomore, that's pretty good.
I think he means it'll be his career average.
Oh yeah, I mean he's got especially if he works on his jumper, because he's got the athletic ability to, and you can't deny that. I mean, if you say he's not athletic, then you just don't know ball. You know, I get it if you think that he might not be able to play, but as far as athleticism goes, he's got that. But he's got a little bit of a wonky jump shot. It's not so fluid, but he does make it a lot. It's not It's not that the form is real bad. It's just that he doesn't always extend. There's a few things he does wrong with it, but I would like to see him fix that. If he can, that would be great. But I mean, he did shoot it okay, you know. But as far as athletic ability around the rim and finishing at the rim, he did really well with that last year. I was surprised, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you in the Big 12, you got to have more than that.
Right. Yeah. Lysel thinks his athleticism is, okay, but not elite. And that's fair, I guess. I mean, I don't know that it's elite either. I don't know that I'd put him at elite, but I would put him at good, maybe even great athleticism. But I just think he's more skilled than anything. He's athletic. He's not an above the rim player, but he has that ability in him to do it. I mean, the very first highlight you'll see on that clip will show you that. But he's just a skilled player. He can dribble, he can shoot, he's a good passer. Like, he does everything well. He's not really bad at anything. His biggest flaw was just his size. He was just so small. He was like 150, 160 pounds. And you can't play that in the Big 12, man, especially if you're a forward.
Right.
I mean, he was 6'8", 150 or 160. Skinny as a rail.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't cut it in the Big 12, But then again,
Right.
We all have, opinions are like buttholes. We all got them. So,
yeah.
Lysel, your opinion is, well respected, just like hopefully like ours is, and we'll see who's right at the end of the day.
The one I have on here, Couz, is from U Vision Sport. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it is the same one.
It's the letter U, the word vision. U Vision.
Yeah. It's really well done too, not to have a lot of views on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure who does that, but they do a great job.
Yeah.
I don't want, this is not really the platform to break it, but I did just land a big guest for Couz's Corner next week. So everybody keep your eyes and ears open for that. Got the text just came in.
Good.
I was going to tell you, I was wanting to make sure it happened before I told you about it, but off air we'll get together and see if you want to join me.
Okay.
Cool. Better or worse than Jalen Bridges, Lysel? 2 years ago, I would have said better, but Jalen Bridges turned out to be a hell of a player. So,
yeah, I mean, he stayed in college and got better year after year.
He finished his career. Look, I did not speak highly of Jalen Bridges when he left West Virginia. I didn't like the way he left. He went on podcasts and said bad things about the university when he left. I didn't like that. I thought it was a bad taste. And because of that, I'm never going to like the guy. I can't help it. But he did a hell of a job at Baylor. And it's hard to argue that. I mean, he started for 2 years there, ended up being one of their best players by the end of the season. He may get a shot to play in the NBA. We'll see. But Jalen's a good player. And
he was never really talent level with Jalen anyway.
I just don't know that he was being utilized.
It was his basketball IQ as well.
That was part of it.
His basketball IQ sucked.
I don't think he meshed well with. I just don't think he meshed well with the staff. I think there were things going on behind the scenes probably that we don't know about, and he wasn't. It was affecting his play on the court. And they probably had him playing out of position, which I know they did because they had to, out of necessity.
Right.
But anyway. Got a comment on here about Bronny, which is what the show's topic is about. It says, from Mad Dog Sports, he says, Bronny, if he would somehow come, he would not be the number one player on every team. Bronny he was not the number one or number two player. Good point, Mad Dog. He's been on some really, like that AAU team we talked about, one of the top AAU teams in the country. So there was a lot of really good players on that team, including Rodney Gallagher.
And that actually, to our point a little bit, he's used to being in that role, right? Was this the question from Timothy Green? What two players would you take if you could out of the United States? I'm assuming you mean like, you
mean outside the United States, Timothy? That's how I read it, but I don't know if that's what he means or not. What do you think? How did you interpret the question, Paul?
I think he just means in the United States.
Okay.
It's just worded a little different.
Okay.
Could be wrong, but I read a lot of Timothy's comments.
Okay.
Um,
I'm probably overthinking it.
right. It's a good question. Man, I've really thought about a lot about this lately. Um, Probably, if you're talking about just in the portal, we'll go with that. Um, I really love the kid that Kansas got, Zeke Mayo from South Dakota State. Oh my
Okay.
God. Oh my God. Such a good player in the Summit League. Uh, I really love him. For this team right now, I think AJ Storr would be an enormous addition. He's the best point guard in the portal by far. He just turned down $750K from Kansas, which we heard earlier.
Hmm.
But listen, put him on this team and let him roll with Tucker. That would be great. And then you get into the bigs. I think BF from uh, Belmont is great. I think Golden from FAU is really good.
Mm-hmm. There's a kid from Yale that's supposedly good too, right?
Yep, he's good too.
I can't think of his
Tony
name.
Perkins from Yale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
Trying to
keeps
remember
coming
his
up.
name.
Somebody keeps mentioning him in the comments on our previous videos, saying that we need to go get
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I brought him up on the show a couple
You
days
did.
ago, and I just can't remember his name. But he's a 7-foot center from Yale. I think it's Ben something, or he's a big white boy.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. I've never seen. Which I mean, DeVries had a big man like that last year in the middle. So that's kind of how he plays it. He's got 4 out and 1 in. Which is fine. I think that's a fun way to play ball. I just want to see who our bigs are going to be. I have no doubt whoever it is, if DeVries brings him in, he's already got the track record. Remember we talked earlier about Yusefu from Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Yusefu from Kansas that transferred again, by the way. He was somewhere else last year. I don't remember where, like UNLV but anyway, he started out at Drake and was developed by Darian DeVries and that staff. And then Kansas wanted him. That's how good he was. You look at last year, he goes and gets Attenwright, Cal State Northridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kid ended up being their best player in the tournament, even over Tucker. Even Jared, his own uncle, admitted that on my show, or on our show. Sorry, I did the interview solo.
No worries.
So I think DeVries knows guards, or whoever that helps him with that knows guards, and I'm not worried about the guards because you got Tucker who's playing off the ball. That's an elite guard already. Attenwright is going to make it here the 12th to the 14th, so we got a shot at him too. That's basically almost half of their guard lineup. So, I just want to see who's going to be on the wing and who's going to be the bigs, and then obviously the point guard is going to be big too. But like I said, not worried about him picking guards. Just want to see the bigs.
What about this big right here that John Kristofik mentions, Federico?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be great as a backup for sure. I think, we're looking – right now we're aiming a little higher, in my opinion. I think we've got the money. Listen, if you haven't heard yet, we're on pace to overshoot what we did last year. We're capable, actually. I've been told we're able to overshoot what we had last year as far as to spend in the portal because of all the memberships, the hype surrounding Darian DeVries. Donors are excited about it, and he's got some donors on standby willing to, if they have to get into a battle with for a player, they will to an extent, right? If there's a late push that's needed to maybe, let's say, Overton, maybe he wants to go to Oklahoma, you give him $50K or whatever it is, he comes to West Virginia, just whatever. So for me, it's just, who are those bigs going to be? But Federico would be great, John. I'm not saying he wouldn't be great, but I just don't know if I would want him as a full-time starter because you got to have production from down there, and he's a defensive-only guy. He can score a little bit, but we need somebody we can throw it down there to. You saw what happened last year in what the tournaments turned into the last few years. Bigs, man, have really been. I mean, it's basically this NCAA tournament. That's the theme, right? Really good bigs. So Clemson had 3. I think you got to have 2 good bigs that can score. And I think Patty Sue is really going to up his game if he stays another year. And he really was playing well. And he's a really great backup big,
Yeah.
So
He's
you
really
had a
not even a
Federico.
I mean, technically, he's supposed to be a 4.
He's the 4. But, I mean, I consider 4s and 5 bigs, both.
Right.
You
I
know.
see.
I mean, they're both power forwards and centers.
Yeah. Two things of note that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention on a previous show. Number one, about the NIL. We were all worried about the NIL piece because there was a lot of rumblings that was because of Huggins.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 little nuggets that I picked up watching other podcasts. One, you got your best player out of the portal without having to pay him a penny because he's the coach's kid. That a lot of the money that you might have paid for Tucker, and I'm not saying Tucker won't get any NIL money, but I guarantee you he came at a steep discount.
Right.
And a lot of the money you would have needed to pay a guy like that, you can now use for somebody else. And then 2, apparently there were some donors at the press conference that had not been seen around West Virginia basketball for a long time.
Interesting. So we're thinking that what we lost was Hugs we gained back?
That came from the earsports.com, I believe it was, podcast. The Country Roads Confidential, I believe it was Casaza because he was there and he saw it. He said, I saw people there that I had not seen in a really long time. And I mean, he didn't go into specifics, obviously, but I made the assumption he was talking about donors. Because who else would he be talking about, right? Who else would have came? Because it was open to the public.
Right. Well, maybe just, people that maybe had been alienated because of Hugs or felt alienated.
He mentioned season ticket holders and things like that, which is typically your donors.
Right.
So there's apparently some people that I guess maybe didn't like Huggins. I don't know. I'm sure there's people on both sides of the Huggins camp. I mean, that's just the way it works. But
agreed.
But apparently maybe the NIL situation is better than what we had originally feared.
There's truly no maybe to it. There's truly no maybe to it. It is, the Power Cat thing. You got to watch that yet? The Go Power Cat interview with Casaza?
I did.
Yep. I mean, he said it in that interview, just that one alone, openly, that there's a lot of support, a lot more than he even said he even admitted that even he was surprised that the support is what it is.
And that may have been the one I heard it on.
Maybe. But it's easy to get that confused with the Year Sports one.
Yeah, because I've watched that, and I've also watched Three Guys, and I've watched other ones. So,
and then Tony Caridi outwardly said it on Three Guys before the game. It's not quite 3; it's between 2 and 3. It's what he said openly, which is what most top flight programs are not named Kansas, and like the like are spending right now.
Mm-hmm. Big Aaron has a great question. He says, do you guys think the team we could have had this past year, if Huggins was there, could have competed in the tournament this year after all we have seen? Yes, I do. If you don't lose Trey, and you don't lose Okonkwo, and you don't lose McGee, and you don't lose Toussaint, you add Kerr, you add Raekwon, you add Jesse,
Silverio,
Jose stays. Absolutely, they could compete.
And Silverio.
Well, his eligibility would have been a thing regardless.
But could have came back. They never even called him, after the ruling came.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
But I mean, there's so many what ifs. It's hard to keep track of them all.
Right. Yeah. In my opinion, yes, Big Aaron. But again, it's a it's one of those. Who really knows at the end of the day, right? We'll never know the answer. What do you think, Paul?
I have a few caveats. I think they would have had to go to Italy first of all.
Yeah, that would have helped.
And the Kerr suspension and the Cook thing was inevitable. So those would have been the only two things that could have happened. Any other season, you're pushing it a little bit. Just those two things: your starting point guard, and your basically your second, maybe third best defender, had a heart issue. Remember, guys, I said it before. Cook was the Big East Defensive Player of the Year. The Big East Defensive Player of the Year. Remember how good that conference was this year? Some people said it might have been sneakily the best conference in college basketball this year because of UConn and think about Creighton. I mean, they've got really good basketball teams. Anyway, so he was able to do that in that conference, and unfortunately, the heart thing really took him out, and it's a sad thing. I wish it didn't happen to him, but you think about what he could have been at his best, a real contributor, and it's unfortunate. So Jesse doesn't break his wrist probably if those things play out differently, because just think about the difference. Just let's say if Jose played, for instance, or what any number of things, but the rotation would have been different. The lineup would have been different. Maybe that very play that he breaks his wrist on never happens if two or three different guys are playing. So there's a lot of what if to really look at when you look at it, but I think we had to. The bad luck is really what it just piled onto itself.
Mm-hmm.
It went from Huggins getting fired to the entire team leaving to Kerr getting suspended to Jose in and out to the players holding us hostage to him breaking his wrist, and it just went on and on and on. It's like it never stopped until DeVries came.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we're all projecting a national title.
National title.
Man, being a fan is rough, isn't it?
It's like it's like shooting yourself up with meth 1 minute and then taking a sleeping pill the next.
Yeah.
The
national
maybe
title
not that
thing,
extreme.
The national title thing was obviously a joke, but I mean, it's unbelievable how it's like there's no negativity in the fan base anymore. It's like it went from gloom and doom to we're back, and the guys never even coached a game. Then we don't even have a roster yet or a staff.
We had a good head start with the bringing Tucker,
but no,
that's
it's
really true.
It's amazing what a coaching change does for a program that's in the doldrums. It just brings
when it's a good coaching change.
Yeah. It just breathes life back into a program, man, especially and when I want to talk about him, man. I don't know that we've talked enough about how good of a job Wren did on his contract. Because we got Darian DeVries for $2.8 million a year.
Right.
The Big 12 average is $3 million a year.
Yeah.
Think about that. Now he's going to be making an average of $3 million by the time the contract's up because he gets raises every year.
Mm-hmm.
But we were paying Bob Huggins over $4 million a year.
Right.
Now, they can pay DeVries 2.8. That gives him more money to hire more staff, maybe better staff. Maybe they can bring on an extra staff member to do like a GM type role, like we see on the football side with Fabianich. I mean, I think the incentives he put in there for him. I mean, if he finishes in the top 6 in the Big 12 in either of his first 2 years, he gets an automatic 1 year extension. Automatic 1 year extension on his contract.
Right, and that's the way to do it.
I mean,
that's how you incentivize somebody.
Outside the box stuff. The contract's not guaranteed. It's 75% guaranteed, not 100% guaranteed. So I mean, there's just to me, if you look at the contract extension with Neil Brown and how that was, good for both sides, and then you look at this contract for DeVries, Wren Baker to me has absolutely 100% knocked it out of the ballpark. Almost everything he's done, in my opinion, I'm not going to say everything because there might be something I don't agree with somewhere down the line, but almost everything he's done has been an absolute home run in my opinion. Now, obviously, the proof will be in the pudding when Darren starts coaching games. But to me, fantastic job by Rim Baker, and I think he deserves some flowers for what he did.
Give him some flowers.
Yep.
Yeah, Danny Wolf, Mad Dog. That's his name. I knew it was a white name. Couldn't remember.
Is that the kid from Yale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure he's one of them.
Simo's jumping on late in the show. He says, just joining, not sure we want the attention that comes with Bronny, specifically his dad being at those Diddy parties. I didn't know about that part. Plus LeBron's support for genocide. I'm not going to get into all that now. There might be some I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because I don't want to speculate on anything that serious.
It's a sports channel, man, but I get it.
But from the attention side, I mean, I'm not a fan of LeBron James either. I'll be the first to tell you that. But when you look at this from the PR this would bring our program, almost every game would be on television. You'd have celebrities coming to games. You'd have LeBron coming to games. You'd have a lot of high school players may want to play at West Virginia when they see that. Look at what's going on with Colorado and Dion. That's what I would compare it to. Probably not to that scale, but it would be, something similar. That's right. Kind of what I would see. But I don't know. And I hate to say it, but it's not even now. Obviously, you want to make sure he's a good enough player to play there. But to me, if you think he's even good enough to be a sub, a bench player, it might be worth it. If he fits the culture and all that too, obviously, those things are non-negotiables. But I mean, I don't mind getting into politics depending on the subject, but there's some serious stuff. I'm not going to talk about.
We're not going to do that. So here's something for comparison's sake. Can you read that?
Her impact on Iowa's talking about Caitlin Clark. Her impact on Iowa's economy has been significant in generating an estimated $82.5 million in increased community and state consumer spending. That's the Caitlin Clark effect.
Right, and Bronny would have a similar effect, maybe a lesser effect if he was really good and we won. A larger effect, I would imagine. Right, Caitlin Clark has been truly generational as far as visibility for the women's game and all that, but it would never beat LeBron James' son if he was good at basketball and the team was winning, right? So I think that's something to be thought about, especially for the economy in West Virginia and stuff. But listen, we know we're reaching here. We're not trying to sell you nothing. We're not trying to sell you a dream on Bronny James. It's just a fun topic during basketball off season to talk about.
Yep.
There's a West Virginia connection with Rodney Gallagher. So it's not like we're reaching too far up into the sky here. Certainly, Coach DeVries knows where Coach Brown's office is. And certainly they can call Rodney Gallagher in and ask him, hey, get it from the horse's mouth for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all feasible things I could see happening, right? So at the end of the day, I think it was worth doing a video on. There's a lot of facets to it, certainly a very multifaceted issue. But I think I would take it, as long as there wasn't any stipulations from that side or anything like that. It was just come in and try to win. Come in and try to win a job. Not any you got to play him or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, Simon, I'm okay with you, man. I have nothing against you. Have a right to speak your opinion. Paul and I can choose not to address certain things if we choose not to, as long as you don't come in here and using too much vulgarity and saying things that might get our show kicked off YouTube or something. Look, man, we don't. I don't like to censor people, so that's not what I'm trying to do here. So hopefully, I didn't come across that way. But yeah, it's all good, man. I just don't want to, without knowing facts about certain stories like that, I don't want to speculate and, make claims against people that on something that serious, right?
Right.
I know, and I know you wouldn't, man. And I didn't. What you said wasn't disrespectful at all. But so no biggie, man. We're all friends here. At the end of the day, we're all one big family. Leo, I have not heard if anybody else is going to the portal. I would expect there will be some other guys go in. Who that is, it's anybody's guess. I do expect a couple of guys. I think they'll be able to hold on to a couple of guys, probably JoJo Harris and maybe Offrey. Other than that, I'm not sure. Really not sure. I'm sure I'm sure everyone is thinking it over long and hard, talking to their families about it and whatnot to make the best decision for them.
Did you just answer that? I was.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Did you want to answer it as well? You don't know of any, do you?
I was sorry. I was looking at just an update to see if anything had happened. As far as our players going out, is that what the question was?
Yeah, our
I didn't
players
have
leaving.
a chance to digest it. From what I understand, that most people would be shocked if the majority weren't gone. So just because it hasn't happened yet, don't mean it's not going to. There's a lot of and there's a lot of feelers going out because you don't want to jump into. Listen, man, people can say that people don't get contact until they're in the portal. The opposite is actually really true. It's just the way it works. If you believe that people aren't being contacted until they're in the portal, you're believing in a lie. They're getting all 99% of these players are being contacted before, and vice versa. A lot of these players don't want to jump in until they've got some dealers out there because I mean, at the end of the day, do you want to move down if you got a shot to play at West Virginia this year with the amenities that they have? Like Brandon Yates said if you saw his interview yesterday in his weekly practice, he was able to go on a missions trip, and they were dying of thirst there, and he's got people bringing him water. He's got people spraying him off. He didn't even have to touch the hose. They've got cryo chambers. They've got whatever you could possibly want. So that's not everywhere, man. West Virginia's lucky. We're really lucky that Oliver Luck and those guys, Bob Huggins, invested into our facilities, and it matters. So, the point is, I think a few of these guys that are borderline up or down, like a guy like Kirk Reese, it was a no-brainer. He's going to get another Power 5 offer. A guy like Pat Suminick, I think put enough on film to get a Power 5 offer, but it probably wouldn't be as a starter, and he'd probably be better off moving down, right? But you want to know about that first, and so just personally, though, I do think at the end of the day, most of these guys are going to be either asked to move down or he's going to let them come to that conclusion on their own. And from what I understand, what I've been told is, if not, they're going to have to be okay with the numbers. And that may be as far as pulling scholarships. You can be a walk-in. That can be you get this kind of NIL, can't guarantee you playing time, all the way to, hey, we want you here, but at this price, etc.
Yeah. Agreed, man. But yeah, like Paul said earlier, I mean, tampering happens. We don't like it. It sucks, but there's no, and Curtis was talking about, in the last comment, there needs to be punishments for it. How you going to do that? The problem is the NCAA doesn't have subpoena power. They can't check guys' phones. They can't just go confiscate a player's phone and say, hey, let me see who's been contacting you. They don't have the right to do that. The only way they're going to know is if a player rats somebody out. And if you're a player, why would you do that? You just lost your leverage. So why would you rat them out? Plus, who wants to be known as the rat among all the rest of the players in the country? You know what I mean? It's not a good look. So players aren't going to rat anybody. I mean, there are probably a few exceptions to that where players do rat people out, but it's probably very, very few.
Agreed, man.
Some of that's actually a good question, and I've wondered the same thing. I don't know how long our contract with Nike is either. I think they just renew it a year or two ago.
2019, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm with you, Simon. I like Nike. It would be really cool if they could become one of the Jordan brand schools, but I'm not sure that might cost more money.
Right.
No. I definitely, again, not to get on politics, but I don't like Adidas, and so I'm cool with Nike. I prefer Under Armour's my favorite brand. I mean, I would say a third of my closet is full of Under Armour shirts. I love Under Armour. I have pants, shirts, socks, you name it. I got it with Under Armour. I love Under Armour, so that would be my preference. But I'm cool with Nike too. But anyway, well, guys, we've been on here for an hour. I don't really have anything else to say. Paul, do you have anything else to talk about?
No, man, I'm good to go. Just want to get on here and talk about the Bronny stuff.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on the portal. Don't be afraid to tag me or Couz if you got us on X.
Yeah.
If not, we're scrolling on the bottom down there. If you're on Twitter, now X, at Paul Mountaineer, at Couz206, at Hoops from the Hills. Any three of those, just tag us, man. Because we can't be everywhere, and there are people coming out every day talking about West Virginia contacting you. It's hard to keep up with all of them, guys. And I'm the guy that Couz will tell you, I reach out to almost each and every one of these guys, so I try to get, and I probably hit maybe 40% of the time. So, but you miss all the shots you don't take, right? So if I can get in with, and every now and again I get in with these guys, and it benefits all of us. So tag me if you see any of these guys, man.
And real quick, I do want to address this, Curtis. Thank you for the reminder. Somebody mentioned it earlier in the show too. Jerry West has been elected into the Hall of Fame, Naismith Hall of Fame, for the third time. This time as a contributor to the game. That's pretty remarkable. I would have to guess he's the only person that's going to be inducted 3 times. As a player, as a...
There's been two others, I think. I have to look at
part of the Olympic team. And then now as a contributor to the game, which I'm assuming is for his days as a general manager, I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely what it is. Just what he did in Golden State alone. This whole thing.
And LA Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I know.
He's the one who put Magic and Kobe together. I mean, Shaq and Kobe together.
Right. That's the obvious one. I'm saying just what he did in Golden State alone.
Yeah, absolutely. That too. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Everything the guy touches turns to gold just about. But anyway, listen, we thank you guys again for jumping on here. Got a $10 super chat to grab before we leave. Thank you, Simo. I don't know. Let us know how to pronounce your name. Sorry if I upset anyone. Feel strongly about it, but I didn't mean to break any rules here. Keep up the awesome work. You didn't break a rule, man. There's certain things we don't want to comment on, and that was one of them. But
right, you just started a conversation about something that we didn't want to talk about. You didn't say anything we didn't want said. It's just if we get on here and start talking about whether it be the Hamas situation or anything like that, whatever it is, I don't even know what you meant, honestly. But there are just things that can be said that can get us completely. YouTube punishes us for things y'all say. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate that's the way it is.
Yeah, they can. And so anyway,
if we don't catch it, leave it up there.
Yeah. Yep. So it's all good, man. I appreciate the $10 donation, man.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, much appreciated. Much respect to you. Dane, the surveyor, coming in with a $2 donation at the end here.
The surveyor.
Thank you, Dane, the surveyor. If you got a comment, he says, freaking awesome, Jerry West, go Mountaineers. Thank you very much.
Maybe we need to talk about Jerry West more often. We got 2 super chats back to back.
Maybe so.
Talk about Bronny James for an hour and got nothing.
Bronny, don't move the needle here in Morgantown or in West by
No, man.
All right, listen.
Timothy Green said another great shoe as usual, Couz.
Thank you, Timothy. Man, you're always here. You're always loyal to us. We need to make you a moderator, man. Lizel, need to make some of you guys that are in here every show, need to make some of you guys moderators. Need to look
yeah,
to that.
I agreed. One thing real quick before we go, Lizel, until this past year, and this is the honest truth, I didn't even know what right wing or left wing meant. That's how little I know about politics. So to me, not everything is political. You know what I mean? I'm very don't know a lot about it, unfortunately, but it's a lot to do with my past. But I just want to throw that out there.
I am very, and I have to bite my tongue at times because I have a tendency to get political when I shouldn't. So I got to be careful. But anyway, guys, got to jump off. Thank you for supporting us. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. We're done.